Occurred, the 1st of March 2008, 2100 location, Indianapolis, Indiana. Shape, disk duration, 15 minutes. Characteristics. There were lights on the object. The object changed color. My son said, "Mommy, there are 4 lights in the sky that look like a UFO." It was about 9:00 p.m. in the spring of '08. My son wanted a toy from the car, so I told him to go get it. Suddenly, he came running in and said, "Mommy, there are 4 lights in the sky that look like a UFO." I have always believed, but this was a stretch. I stepped outside and there it was. I really was instantly in shock. I looked, trying to come up with anything that it could be besides the one thing I had hoped to always see. Nothing. There was nothing else it could be. It was pretty large and the details are missing because it was in a cloud of mist. It was too low to be an actual cloud. It was about 40 featuring, it seemed, maybe more, from the top of my neighbor's house. Through the clouds it was emitting 4 different lights. Dimmed, of course. The colors looked as if they were pink, blue, green, white or clear. They did blink in a pattern. There was no sound as it hovered with no movement. I suddenly had a feeling of fear because my son was still outside with me. I grabbed his arm and went inside. At this point I was pretty shook up and told my boyfriend to look outside. I know he saw it, but he is not a believer. To this day he denies seeing anything. Potential witness. At this point I was still pretty scared, so I kept looking out my side door to see if it was still there. My guess is it stayed for probably another 10 minutes. The strangest part to me is I didn't react the way I thought I would have. The whole experience seems eerie. I would have taken a picture, called someone, or stayed outside by myself till it had left, but I didn't. I don't remember much else from that night. The neighbors were retired nuns. I didn't ask them about anything out of embarrassment and obviously their strong religious background. I did notice some injuries right after. That they said was due to surgery on both, at the same time. Then after living there for many years they upped and moved to their old parish. I now kick myself for not asking anything about that night. Even stranger for me, I didn't say anything for about 2 days about what I had seen. I had completely forgotten or blocked out, I don't know, the whole thing until my boyfriend started to make fun of me about what I had saw. I would have at least called my dad as we have a mutual interest in the matter. I can't stop thinking about all that happened. Has anyone had a similar sighting or experience? Weird feeling, can't explain. I was completely floored. How could I forget about something that had been so important to me in my past, as well as now in my present? I am really bothered by this with no one to talk to about it. Everyone I know thinks it's crazy, AMI. There is so much evidence out there. Why the secrecy from our governments? We need to demand answers.
Occurred, the 4th of January 2008, 0000 location, Indianapolis, Indiana. Shape, triangle duration, 1 hour. Characteristics. There were lights on the object. The object emitted other objects, multiple triangle-shaped UFOs in V formation. Then slowly follow interstate in Indianapolis on the morning of January 4, 2008. Just after midnight, my fiancé and I were driving east on East 96th Street in Indianapolis, Indiana. As we approached Indianapolis Metropolitan Airport, a small Cessna airfield and flight school, to our northwest, I noticed about 6 bright yellowish-white lights in a V pattern. Only it looked more like a check, because the last top left area was not lit. I'm familiar with lights over Phoenix, and I called my good friend who is quite skeptical of the famous video. At this point, I assumed I was looking at a couple Cessnas doing night training, but I wanted to call my friend and tell him what I was seeing just for fun. While I was on the phone with him, my fiancé pointed out that there was a 7th light now in the sky next to them, and much to my surprise, I looked up to see the 7th light duplicate to reveal an 8th light, which instantly glided into position, turning the check into a V. 2 minutes into the event, as we neared the small airport, it became evident that the lights were not tiny Cessna aircrafts. We could now also make out that each ball of light was in fact 3 large white lights, as if a commercial airliner had a large spherical light on the bottom front of the plane and 1 large spherical light on each wingtip. About another 30 seconds passed and the V shape broke up and each aircraft began to pass overhead. At a stoplight, I opened my car door and stepped out to get a better look at these planes. It was when one was right overhead that I noticed a tiny red beacon in the very center of the aircraft that was blinking. There were no stars in the sky, and I cannot 100% fully verify that the triangle-shaped craft was connected all the way around, but for whatever reason, despite never seeing a photo of one, I just assumed it was triangle-shaped. It's like I could make out the darker matter. I couldn't make out wings or anything, but my mind saw it as a triangle. My fiancé asked me what was going on, and I told my friend I would call him back. I told her I thought the planes were actually UFOs, because at that point I had no idea what they were and I wanted to scare her. They were large, triangular-shaped crafts who made no noise as they passed overhead. I'll reiterate that it was midnight on a deserted street and literally no noise could be heard. I turned into an apartment complex and physically got out of my car and attempted to take a picture with my phone. My hand couldn't stay still, and with the VGA resolution I snapped a blurred picture that looked more like headlights than anything else. I deleted it when I got home, before I realized the significance of our encounter. Because I couldn't bring myself to fathom alien crafts, and my fiancé didn't appreciate me trying to freak her out, I just assumed I was witnessing some new airliner which I'd never seen before and began to drive home. I took I-69 south and noticed one of the aircrafts following the highway. This struck me as extremely odd because I've lived in Indy for quite a while and never before had I seen a low-flying airliner simply follow the highway. It passed overhead and I saw a few more off in the distance. It was actually really eerie. I'd never felt like that before. I got home and Googled whether or not Indianapolis International had any delays or runways out, explaining why so many aircrafts were simply cruising around the city at low altitudes at midnight. Literally every flight was on time. That's the last I thought about this event until today when I stumbled upon a website describing these triangle-shaped UFOs with 3 white lights and a center red beacon. I noticed how they mentioned these crafts fly low over populated areas, and even follow highways. When I read that line I literally got chills. I'm not going on record saying I witnessed alien crafts, but I will stand by my report that I saw exactly what all of these websites are describing as triangle-shaped UFOs. The physical description and behaviors mimic exactly as what I witnessed. I felt that I had an obligation to tell somebody or some organization that I witnessed a number of these crafts. I'd sure like to know what they were. I'd draw you a picture, but it would look exactly like the dozens out on the web right now, except the center red light was about a quarter of the size as the 3 white lights. Well, that's that.
Occurred, the 7th of July 2008, 2300 location, Indianapolis, Indiana. Shape, disk duration, 5 o'clock minutes. Characteristics. There were lights on the object. A flying white and red flashing saucer flew over my house. I was looking out the window at about 11:50 p.m. July 7, 2008. I saw a flying saucer type thing. It had white lights around the base, and on the bottom it had red lights. It was just a saucer flying over my backyard. I am freaked out.
Occurred, the 7th of August 2008, 21:52 location, Indianapolis, Indiana. Shape, unknown. Duration, 3 seconds. Characteristics. The object left a trail horizontal zigzagging white light. We saw a long white streak across the horizon. Zigzag motion from north to south, was similar to a lightning bolt, but was not lightning. NUFORC note. Witness elects to remain totally anonymous, provides no contact information.